Today, we're going to be looking at a game played by none other than Alexander Alekhine, a former world champion. And today, we're going to be looking at a game where he played a blindfold Simul, and he sacrificed a queen for a 7-move checkmate. So, we are in for a treat. It was also a very positional and a very accurate game. I like Alekhine because you could see he plays like e3 as white. I mean, he played the Alekhine, knight f6 as black. And he just always gets 98 accuracy playing these bogus openings. That's my type of guy. He also died in a very sad way. I think he died due to alcoholism. No, not many chess players die happy. But at least they got to play chess, right? They also can't really... Top players can't really even do interviews. They can't speak for some reason, but... Knight f3, okay, he begins with the ready, right? He likes bringing the knights out early on. Stay tuned. My bullshit aside, we're getting into some good chess. Promise. So we get in English. We get d4 fighting for the center. Okay, and knight c6. This is an old line that's now considered a mistake, but there's an idea behind it. So what should you do when your opponent goes knight c6? Well, of course you should gain a tempo on the knight, right? Now, the knight basically has to go back to b8, otherwise it could risk getting trapped. And why did black voluntarily waste a tempo? Well, as you could see, we're playing a symmetrical English, so these bishops don't really belong on these diagonals. They belong fianchettoed. And you see, kind of like a Banco or kind of like a Benoni, this advancement to the light squares done by white will make black's dark squared bishop better than white's light squared bishop, because white's light squared bishop will now hit a pawn, black's dark squared bishop will now hit the whole world, and then some. Knight c3, develop d6. Don't let this pawn go any further, because then maybe you have a good bishop, maybe you get doubled pawns, maybe your king becomes paralyzed in the center, who knows. But knight c3 also stops it from being a Banco, because there's always knight takes b5. I love the Banco. Still haven't made videos on it. Both sides fianchettoed, and as you could see, black's dark squared bishop better than white's light squared bishop. Because now it's a blockaded light squared pawn. Okay, we're done with that fact now. Bishop f4, an okay move. And then h6. Not good. Not good at all. What should black do? Well, you see how black's pawn chain is facing the queen side? Basically, what he needs to do is go a6, b5, rook b8. He can even throw in knight a6, knight c7. But basically, I'm not going to say basically again. Last time. Pawn chain faces the queen side. You want to expand on the queen side because you want to attack on the board where your pawn chain faces, and that's where his counterplay will come from. Instead, he goes h6. This is just too damaging to the fianchetto itself. Now, white connects his rooks and has a battery aimed right there at h6. Black has to waste yet another tempo defending the pawn, and then e4, fighting for the center. So white has a big space advantage. Black's going to be cramped. So when you have a space advantage, you want to avoid trades. When you are cramped, you want to get trades, because the less pieces on the board, the less cramped you feel, the less space you have, the stronger your pawn structure in endgames, because there will be less holes. We get knight h5. Okay, what do we want to do? Bishop e3. You don't want this knight to take the bishop, because the bishop just stayed neutral, right? It didn't get stronger, didn't get worse, but this knight did get worse, because now it's on the side of the board. It's not where it wants to be. Rook to e1. Okay, why did white coordinate his rooks like this? Well, c and d make no sense because these pawns are blockaded. There's an argument to be made for b, but again, black's weak on the king side, so attack on the king side. So these are the two dynamic files. Dynamic meaning that there is a plan for both these pawns. f4, e5 in black's face, and that's why they're the good files. Rook b8, a little too slow by black, if I do say so myself, and we get knight h4. Why knight h4? Well, the point of knight h4 is he wants to go f4, right? And you can't really go g5 because then the knight jumps into f5. There's going to be sacks. You have like the whole world right here. So we get knight f6. Plan is to go g4. Are we okay with the knight taking our bishop? Hell no. We go h3. Don't let that knight come to g4. Save your bishop. Knight g8. Why? Well, now we're threatening g4 to trap his knight, right? If he wastes a move, like boom, boom, it's free knight for a pawn or two. But then they're opening up their king side, so joke's on them. Knight f to g8, pawn g4, knight f6, pawn f4. You see, look at this space advantage. You do not want this in an endgame with all the pieces traded off, because then the king's going to like have everywhere to claim. Okay, pawn e6, knight back to f3, right? You don't want, there's like tactics. Like let's say you waste a move. There's like stuff that can be done to your knight on h4. And you don't want that to happen. So don't let that happen. So he went knight back to f3. He didn't want his knight on the h file. He just put his knight on the h file to push the f pawn. The f pawn has been pushed. So now his knight rotates back to the f file. E takes d5. Which way do we recapture? Towards the side of the board you attack on. Hopefully none of you said queen side then. Right? C takes d5, captured towards the king side. Towards the side of the board you're attacking on. Good rule of thumb. It's a generality. But generalities help sometimes. E5, collapsing the center. I think it's time to blow open the center. And now b4. So if this king was on h8, the best move would be to take. Because after takes, it would be a check. However, it is not a check. So we would lose a queen. And then if you like, I don't know, go here and take, then their position just wakes itself up. Knight takes, and all of a sudden, their loss of a tempo paid off. So he doesn't allow that to happen. b4, let's see. He goes knight d1, okay, knight e4. It looks like it looks like black is progressing, but not so much. He can't really go knight g3 because then rook f2, and you're just going to pick up the knight. Right? He needs to like go f5. So queen d3. Pawn f5 still happens. Pawn e6. One way to give up an advantage would be to take and allow them to get back into the game, right? Fully develop. Bishop, discovered attack on the queen. We don't want that. So e6, closing off yet another piece from the king side. King side keeps getting weaker and weaker for black and stronger for white. You could kind of see the trajectory of where we're going. Queen a5 is a bad move. He should have probably went rook b6. I think he went queen a5 to go bishop a6 to pick up a piece, but rook b6 does the same thing. All right. Let the brilliancies begin. G takes f5. There is no more bishop a6 because we take a knight and then we take a bishop. We can even take on g6 with an in-between check. Let me put that on the board in case I am speaking rocket science. Boom. Boom. Okay, it's even also a check if he takes. If he goes back, though, we win 2 pieces. My bad. I get ahead of myself, but it's a good day. G takes f5. Knight h4, right? Attacking the base of the pawn chain, but are we losing a rook right now? Are you kidding me? We go back, they just take our rook? No. Find the mate in 7. Pause the video. I promise you guys can find it if you know the title of the video is something of the lines of 7-move queen sacrifice. Count the moves, look for a queen sack. Move 1, queen takes knight. Move 2, bishop takes. Now we get king h8 and enter a windmill, right? The king is constantly going to be stuck. So knight g6, king h7. You pick up the rook, of course. They go back. Okay, but how do we win? Because, I mean, we can perpetual anywhere we go. What you need to envision is you need this bishop to be cutting off h7 when the king is on h8. So you can't have the knight on g6. You must have it on f7. So how do we rotate over to f7? Knight e5, king h8, knight f7, boom. A short video, but a beautiful game. This was played blindfolded. Respect. And yeah, Alekhine was a great player. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you as always for watching. Have a great day. Boom!